Good morning, everyone. We're going to start with the lightning talks in a minute. I just wanted to bring your attention to the table that we have on that corner. The board of the Wikipedian education user group, together with the education team at the foundation, we're going to start a consultation from our education community to learn a little bit more about what tech tools are working best for the work you do. What are some of the tech tools you wish we had, or some improvements to the ones that we already do have. So I would appreciate it if throughout the day you came to the table and just wrote your ideas on the post-it notes that we have available and just stick them to the table. Don't write directly on the cloth, just write on the post-it notes and leave them there. So thank you so much.
Caroline here? Caroline from US. No. So we'll talk the lightning talk session now, sorry for the delay, and we have around 6 or 7 talks. So first one will be by Melissa from Greenhouse. By the whole Greenhouse.
Thank you, Sailesh. Okay, hi again. So my name is Melissa Guadalupe Huertas. I work as a program officer with the education team at the Wikimedia Foundation, and I'm just going to briefly talk to you about the Wikimedian Education Greenhouse. Some of you might already be familiar with it. This might be new information for some of you, so let's start. So the Wikimedia Education Greenhouse is a pilot program that is being spearheaded by the education team at the foundation, and it uses a startup incubator model alongside an online course on Wikimedian education project management. And it seeks to equip Wikimedians with the skills and knowledge and the support that they need to bring their ideas on Wikimedia education projects to life or to the next level. It supports program leaders, movement organizers in the education space on the idea of knowledge equity, and it considers the challenges and opportunities of their local communities and their local education context. So we look at what your Wikimedia education community looks like in your countries, in your cities, and also at what your education context looks like there as well. And we believe that context is everything. We are doing this through different participation modalities and through a highly collaborative development model. We started with a team application and an individual application. The team application involved a minimum of 3 team members. They had to present a project idea for a Wikimedia education initiative. By applying through a team, with a team. They were applying to access seed funding, on-site support, mentoring from the education team at the foundation, and the online course. We opened this call for applications in April. We announced it during the Wikimedian education conference that we had in San Sebastián in the Basque Country. And we received 15 team applications. Out of those 15 team applications, we selected one team for this round. And the non-selected teams were still offered feedback and mentorship opportunities with the education team. With the individual applications, which was the second modality that we opened, it was open for all Wikimedians who were interested in developing education projects. We asked them to complete a short survey that included a motivation statement, and this would give them access to an online course, which comprises of 3 content units, which is equivalent of approximately 70 hours of instruction. This online course is currently living on Moodle. We're using that as our learning management system. And we received about 100 applications to join the online course. And right now, there's about 60 active participants in the online course. We launched the online course officially on the 1st of July. And the second thing that I mentioned regarding collaborative development of this initiative, by this I meant that things like the selection committee, so the people and the process that involved selecting that one team that went through the team application, was a joint effort between staff from the Wikimedia Foundation, as well as members from affiliate organizations, including the Wikipedian Education User Group. When building the curriculum for the online course, we also relied a lot on consultations with experts, both from the Wikimedia Foundation and from the community. And we also put together, or made an open call for volunteer collaborators. We reached out to senior members of the Wikimedia education community who wanted to be involved in supporting newcomers, so to speak. We heard from 11 leaders who wanted to support particularly the development of the online course. So there are about 11 senior members of the Wikimedia education community who are connecting with other participants in the online course and offering some additional support, and also helping us test the platform and letting us know what is working, what is not working, etc. We also built together a code of conduct together with the trust and safety team at the foundation and with input from other members of the community. What has been done so far? So like I said, we opened the application process in April. That was open for about a month and a half. We communicated about this initiative throughout different online and offline channels. And we started the online course on the 1st of July. So, the team application was open on these dates, April 5th to May 12th. After that, there was a period of assessment of the team applications. We selected 3 finalists, and they went through a final round of interviews that happened in early June, and we announced the selected team on June 17th. Right now, we're at the stage where the mentorship process is starting with this team. This was the selected team. It was a team from Ghana. And they presented this really amazing project that had different components. But this required a bit of a larger budget than what we had available. So during the final round of interviews, it was agreed that they would focus only on the technology and green mentorship program component that they suggested. And that was kind of like why the decision was made to work with them on this round. Regarding the individual applications, the call for applications was the same period of time. Then we asked our volunteer collaborators to help us test the platform, which also happened in June, before the online course was launched on the 1st of July. There was an introductory unit that lasted 2 weeks for people to start getting used to navigating Moodle, to ask questions, to get more familiar with the curriculum. And the first content unit started on July 15th. This is kind of what the online course looks like. As you see, there are different components. Within each content unit, there are between 4 to 5 modules, and each module has a different topic of focus. So, for example, this module first is concentrated on knowledge equity, sustainable development goal number 4. There are activities that include a virtual class, which is a synchronous, one of the very few synchronous activities that we have in the online course. After that, there are lessons which include readings, videos, and different kind of resources, and also discussion forums where participants engage in different conversations about the material and the topics that they are studying in these modules. And each module also includes a final assignment, which usually is like an online activity, but also we're trying to push people into doing offline activities like interviewing teachers, etc. And what is going to happen next? So with this online course, we're also, this is all a pilot. We're seeing how it goes, what works, what doesn't, how it can scale. One of the things that we're piloting as well is a learning recognition system. So after participants complete each unit, they receive a digital badge. And this digital badge is displayed on their Moodle profiles, but they can also be displayed on their user pages on the Wikimedia projects. And after the participants complete the 3 content units, they will also receive a certificate that they can print and they can add to their professional development portfolios. We're also, what's coming next is that there's going to be some on-site support for the selected team. So one member of the education team is traveling to Ghana to work directly with the winning team on their education initiative. And this is going to happen at the beginning of their project and at the end of their project. And after that, of course, we're going to go through a stage of evaluation, reporting, and storytelling, and hopefully that will result on a second iteration of this pilot that will be even better. So yeah, that's it for me. If you have any questions or want to learn more about this experience, do send me a message or let's hang out during the lunchtime. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Do we have any questions for Melissa?
Or ask them now.
Sure.
Melissa, please forgive me for not doing module 0 or module 1 throughout July. Busy. You said it closes. Does it mean that I do not have a possibility to, once I get successfully pass this Wikimedian of the Year to someone else's shoulders, to start catching up with Module 0 and Module 1? Is it now closed and not accessible until next year? What's the status?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Farhad. No, you can still join and start with the different modules at any point. The opening and closing dates that are signaled in the module are just like suggestions so that you can pace your time and yourself adequately, because if you we recommend 2 weeks to work on each module. So, but if you can work on each module during like a day and afternoon, that is up to you, or if you need more time, that is also completely allowed. The activities do not close. So even if somebody is right now interested in joining the platform and starting to work on it, they can totally do it. They will miss on some of the synchronous activities that we're doing, like the virtual classes, but even those are being recorded and being available for consultation at a later time.
And the next thing to what you have now said, if anybody is willing to join the platform, that means that it is not limited by the number of participants. So whatever I assumed that I had to file until 1st of May and only whatever doesn't stand, meaning that I can openly invite more people to join, right?
Yes. So right now, for example, like I mentioned, there were about 100 people that signed up for the online course. But you sign up for an online course and you forget about it. So right now, the number of active contributors or active participants is a lot less than that. So if you want to join, yes, I can of course, create credentials for you and you can start engaging with it. The way that we are working with this learning recognition system, for example, the badges, there are certain activities that are marked as mandatory. So as long as you complete those activities before we kind of like, I don't want to say close, but we finish the cycle of this course, which is going to be in March of next year, so there's plenty of time, then the batch will still be available. Even if you finish Unit 1, not at the end of this month of August, which is kind of like the scheduled timeline, but you finish it in November, you will still acquire that batch. Does that make sense?
It does. How many extra hundreds of people can I sign up without overburdening you?
Hopefully not 100, but maybe, like a dozen or a couple dozen people would be nice. But yeah, and like I said, I mean, we really are hoping that this is a first pilot and that we'll have an opportunity to iterate and start again after the evaluation period is over.
Thanks again, Melissa. I think it's taking a lot of time when you're asking questions. So if you have like questions, try to reach out to people after the lightning talks.
Where can we find that? Where is it now? The place in Meta? Is it in Meta or?
It's on Outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It's on Outreach. Outreach, yes. But if you go on Outreach, the link that we published for people to join is now closed. It's not active anymore. So just come to me and I'll give you the right link.
Okay. Thanks.
Could you link it from the program page?
Yeah, sure. I can put it there.
Thanks, Melissa.
That's a better idea. Thank you.
Now we have training kits by Christine and Jirion.
Do we have two microphones? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Mm.
Okay.
Can I use this one? Okay. Perfect. Okay, welcome everyone to this lightning talk about the TrainingsKit, or a project on how to empower volunteers to teach Wikipedia. My name is Christine Domgörgen. I'm a staff member at Wikimedia Deutschland in the community engagement team.
And I'm Gerion from Germany as well. And Christina developed this TrainingsKit and had some helpers like me.
Important helpers, yes. So let's start with the assumption we started with also, that practical editing workshops are great. So they're great to teach newbies how to write how to edit, how to contribute to Wikipedia. It's great because they get to know people, they can reach out to afterwards. So it's great for newcomer attraction and retention as well, which is a topic I'm working in. So, but still, there are a lot of challenges for educators or trainers, people who really do these courses. No? So there are changing contexts of editing courses. It might be in schools, it might be like in the GLAM context, in universities as well, or even like just as an open editing format, which we have a lot in Germany. So there's always this need to adapt course materials to changing contexts. Then course preparation is a lot of work, as we know. So you need to prepare the materials, you need to organize everything, you need to adapt the materials to changing contexts maybe. So also like a big challenge. Then what we see in Germany, at least, the groups are often very heterogeneous. So they're like people with some editing knowledge and some people with specific questions and complete newbies on the other side. So this is also very difficult. And then lots of educators and trainers have like a kind of an expert perspective. So there's so much knowledge. I mean, Gerion knows everything about Wikipedia, I feel sometimes. But newbies don't need to know everything. They just need to know a bit. They just need to know what's relevant for them to start editing. So this can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. Like, and to filter what is relevant for a newbie when you're such an expert is kind of hard. And also, it's kind of difficult sometimes because none of the volunteers I know, at least, have like a didactical background or know something about like really how learning works. Of course, it's also not, you cannot expect this. So some help in this part is really appreciated. So especially when you like draft practical exercises, so how to do like an editing exercise or something. You want to add something?
No. So these are all the challenges that educators have, and what we're aiming at is especially people that have never maybe hosted a workshop before, or that hardly have any experience. They feel very insecure, and we want to give them some security and develop a tool that will enable simply anybody who has a little knowledge of Wikipedia to teach Wikipedia.
Yes. So the idea we came up with is a TrainingsKit, which is basically a toolkit for how to teach Wikipedia. So it has some materials in it. So there's a standard presentation, which is also adaptable, so you can edit it. It's not a PDF format. Then there's like a huge course outline, like for an example course with some practical exercises as well, including materials for learners, like handouts and stuff like this. There's also like for the course organization, like the practical part, a checklist for course preparation, think of Wi-Fi and stuff like this. And also some material for evaluating the course afterwards.
And another thing that there is a link list. We have all these huge help pages. They're in different formats for different skills. Mostly people don't really know how to find them, so there's a link list with everything you need for information.
Yes. So we developed this toolkit in this kind of, like it looks like a complicated process, but it's not so complicated. So we started with some research and planning. So we started like with a collection of best practices. We did some interviews with trainers who were already doing courses. We analyzed existing materials and collected them in the first place because they were not there. And we established like a core team of interested trainers who wanted to help with developing these materials and also were ready to give feedback. In the next phase, which was like the development phase, and it took a while, I have to say, we had many iterations and collected feedback on several versions of the materials from the core team, from volunteers, and also from some experts from outside. And now we have published the materials, which is great after 1 year. And so now we are communicating it and advertising it in the community because we need people to test these materials. Now we need more people to really use them and tell us what's working and what's not working about this. And the next step is like a practical training, a train-the-trainer Wikipedia workshop, because I think materials might be helpful and you can read like the advice and tips and stuff, but it's really something different, like if you try it out and go in a training and get feedback from your peers and learn how to interact with the material better. So we will do 2 workshops in December this year and collect feedback about the materials as well. And then hopefully maybe we have some resources or some ideas also to further develop the materials and might add other modules. So lessons learned, it takes forever. It took us a year, I didn't expect this. I mean, there are other projects I'm doing, but still it takes a lot of time to collect the feedback from different sources also, to iterate all the versions. And then we have some learnings which might be specific to the German-speaking community. So we discovered that there's really no exchange between trainers about like education. So there's no trainer community or anything. Like there are no meetings or meetups, and there's really no central place where people communicate. There's some subgroups, but it's not in somehow coordinated or anything. All the workshops which are done in Germany, and there's quite a lot of them, I feel, are like organized decentrally. So we at WMDE don't know about them, and also like other trainers don't know what other trainers do. So which is difficult for peer-to-peer exchange, which would be super helpful in this topic, I think. There was no pool of materials, no central wiki page or anything where everybody would upload their material, and so you could learn from others. And there's also not a huge tradition of practical exercises in those courses, I have to say. So a lot of the teaching is happening very like frontal. I don't know if you say this in English. So I think there's like a paradigm shift happening, I hope, now with the material. So there's more like interactive formats coming. Yeah, okay. So we published it here. It's in German, but still it might be helpful for some of you. You can translate it, share it, reuse it, communicate it, everything. Thank you. Oh, wait, no, he wants that.
Plus, if this format is not so interesting for you or wouldn't adapt to your communities, I highly advise that you build a central place for trainers, that they have all the material they need. And this might be the template for that, but you might come up with different forms that help in the Spanish or French or Chinese community that helps trainers to get a central place to get much more secure in schooling. This could be a start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I think we do have time for some questions, maybe.
I think we started a bit late.
Maybe we'll take all the questions at the end, or just reach out to them if you have any questions, because we like have 6 more presentation and 10 minutes each.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
talk to us afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now Sailesh will be presenting about how to talk about Wikimedia in education. Yep. You're changing laptops? You sent me 2 wrong presentations. One.
Sorry. I know, yeah. It's from Haifa. Cool, thanks. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone. Yeah, it's working. Hi everyone. My name is Sailesh Patnaik. I work with the education team at the Wikimedia Foundation. I guess this is my first presentation at Wikimania, which I am doing in my volunteer, not in my volunteer capacity. I had one yesterday, so this is my like staff capacity. So let's talk about Wikimedia and education. I was actually trying to be rebel in this in my slides, so you can see some changes. You can guess it afterwards. I'll say afterwards actually how I was trying to be rebel. So how many of you remember this logo? The pretty one, right? Oh, Wikipedia education program. Yeah. We did a survey in 2017-18, and the result of the survey said that the black square is dull. Someone even said that it is the black square of death. So we got some feedback saying that WEP doesn't recognize the other Wikimedia projects. We know, right? It's not 2011. We are in 2019. So the best, I'll give an example. We did a mapping exercise it's been 2 years. Yes, it's last year. Yeah, we did the mapping exercise last year in July, where we tracked the number of activities, education activities happened throughout the world. And we found that the earliest education activity that has ever happened was in Serbia. So that dates back to 2005 in Belgrade University. So that was a time when people started using Wikipedia as an education tool. But by 2011, 12, oh, it's not Wikipedia anymore. We are using Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons, a lot of projects actually. So how can I relate to Wikipedia education program? Because I don't do my education activity with that project. We asked the comms team at the foundation to create a new logo for the education movement. So now we have something called Wikimedia Education, where it's not something we want to use. We want you to use it. Don't say that I'm doing Wikimedia education activity. I'll come back to it. This is a larger umbrella for our movement, like GLAM. When you say, I'm representing GLAM, I'm representing Wikimedia education, but you can always explain the project you are working on. You don't have to say, I'm just doing a Wikimedia education activity. So we worked on this logo. We had 3 shades of this logo, and we asked the community to vote for it. It's the same color with different shades, and by the end of 2-week voting process, the education community selected this one. So whenever you're representing the education, we actually request you to use the logo, and the logo can be localized in your context. You're organizing a workshop in Belgrade University, so you can just say Wikimedia Education, and down there, Belgrade University. Or if you want to represent your affiliate, say that, oh, this is my team working on education in Wikimedia Deutschland. So that can say Wikimedia Education Deutschland. So there are some guidelines we are following, which I'll come back to it again, to localize the Wikimedia logo. And then it was very surprising for me when I was in Wikimedia Summit Berlin, and we had the capacity building group discussions, and one of the participants said that, oh, I don't know what is Outreach Wiki is. How many of you here doesn't know what Outreach Wiki is? Outreach Wiki. Oh, wow. So actually, Outreach Wiki is a space which has been used for a long time by the education or GLAM volunteers. That is the documentation stuff for, the documentation place for GLAM and education movement. And we have been using the Outreach Wiki for a long time, but again, the content there are super, super, super outdated. And my team is currently working on updating those content. And last year we got a new design for the Wikimedia space, the Outreach space on the Wikimedia education space on Outreach Wiki. So when you go to education.wikimedia.org, so this is what you see. We share some of the highlights of education newsletter, and you can read more news. There are some tabs and a discussion to the Wikimedia space. My colleague Elena will be talking about the Wikimedia space. We have an education category on the Wikimedia space, which is super cool. If you have any questions related to Wikimedia and education, and you want to collaborate with someone, come reach out to us through the Wikimedia space. Because we have a Wikipedia and education Facebook group, but that, again, like, it's something you don't keep a track of. Everything goes missing, and you don't know, oh, I read 2 months back, someone posted something that I need that now, but I can't find it. Then we have the one I was talking about. We have a page called Brand Guidelines on Resource tab, where we can go, you can find all this information, like how to talk about Wikimedia and education, how to localize the logo, how to use different types of logo, how to use some icons that the team has created for the community. And so I'm just reading out some examples, like how to give an example, how to talk about Wikimedia and education. It's like Wikimedia Armenia is helping students to gain confidence and improve the digital literacy through engaging in interactive wiki camps. So, as I said, that Wikimedia education is the larger umbrella of our movement. But whatever activities we are doing is always different than the larger umbrella. So you can always explain your project, always try to explain your project, because that's how people connect with you. That's how people collaborate with you. Not like, oh, we did the Wikipedia education program in Christ University. Oh, what was it about it? Then you have to explain the same stuff. So And we also have the education newsletter. We highlight the stories from community, and we always encourage you to share your story with us. The education newsletter has been subscribed by almost 300 Wikimedia volunteers on their talk page, almost 250 volunteers on their email, and we also post this on different social media networks. As for the current statistics, I think it is rated by more than 2,000 readers every month, so it has a good readership. I'm just talking about the Wikimedia education newsletter page, not individual newsletters. Individual newsletter get more readership than the page itself. Then the team also organized office hours and office space. Office hours is a collaborative space for, like, it's open for anyone to join, exchange idea, talk to the staffs at Wikimedia Foundation, the education staffs. And office space is more like a one-on-one consultation with the education team. So if you have any questions, if you have like something to collaborate on, you can request us for the office space. And we also organize a monthly affiliates meeting for affiliate staffs in different, from our affiliates to join us for that. We have some here who have joined the last call. Dominic is here. I guess no one is, yeah. Cool. Then all the social media stuff. We have our Facebook page. We have Twitter. You can find our Twitter account there, Wikimedia Edu. And if you want to share something, use the hashtag edu@Wikimania. That's all. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any question. I'm not taking questions now. Thanks. You have to say. Oh, yeah, sure. Feel free to ask a question then.
So Jennifer, in US, she is speaking about how students can take the roles of Wikimedian residents and professionally develop themselves.
Hey, my name is Jen Sutcliffe. I'm an educational analyst at Emory University, and educational analyst is basically like instructional designer, technologist type person. And this is Caroline. She was our Wikipedian in residence for 2 semesters in fall of last year and spring of this year. Everyone knows what a Wikipedia in residence is? Anyone not know? Okay, so essentially, a Wikipedian or Wikimedia in residence is someone who takes on the role of doing, building community of Wikipedia editors in their local area. They're often at a GLAM institution, so library or museum or archives, and I'm part of Emory Libraries, so she was in our library, and she was in a part-time role, so the Wikimedian in residence role can be in a number of different kind of permutations, like it could be a full-time professional or an internship or, a variety of different roles. So she served in a part-time role as a student, and before we hired her, she was an art history major with an English minor, super, super smart, almost a 4.0 GPA, and she's a senior. Looking to work in museums, archives, or libraries and attend graduate school. But she found that in the internship she had, she was mostly doing work where she was just sitting, doing like computer type work or working with the archives and not really getting much opportunity to grow her soft skills, like doing outreach or teaching or things like that. And so during her interview, she made the statement saying, she really wants to have more opportunity to work with people and do more, instruction and engagement with communities. So just a couple of notes about the topic of students who are trying to develop their skills for the workforce. A Gallup poll showed that only a third of students who graduate feel like they're prepared for the workforce, whether they know exactly what they want to do like Caroline does, or they're still exploring things. And these are some of the top skills that are sought by employers according to articles in LinkedIn and US News and World Report. So that includes communication, collaboration, leadership, empathy, creativity, innovation, and adaptive thinking. And so a lot of these are, not hard skills like knowing how to use a tool or program, but things that you develop through doing the kind of work that involves working with people. So my point today is that allowing a student to fill a Wikimedian in residence role can give them opportunities that other on-campus jobs or even internships may not afford them, depending on how you design the role and their level of interest. So these are some of the skills that are used in the work of a Wikimedian residence, which might involve writing or enlisting others to write articles that are related to content in the institution's holdings, leading training sessions for Wikipedia editor volunteers as well as staff in the institution, organizing events like editathons, working with faculty. In Caroline's case, I already did that, and so she assisted me with that, and collaborating with different partners across campus and building outreach initiatives. So these are some other institutions, in addition to Emory, that I've been able to research that have had a student Wikimedian residence, and these are either an undergraduate student or master's student. I listed these mainly because there are many institutions that have hired PhD students, but they tend to be more further along in their career and have already had things like teaching experience. So before we hired a Wikimedian residence, I'm basically leading the charge of Wikimedia initiatives at Emory, and we had a Wikipedia interest group in Emory libraries, and we started doing editathons and staff trainings, and as an instructional designer, I work with faculty designing Wikipedia editing assignments. But we wanted to build stronger ties with the Wiki community and grow our efforts on campus and as well as beyond. So this is an overview of a grant proposal that I wrote for $5,000, and $2,000 was for the Wikimedian in residence role, which would start at 10 hours a week for 16 weeks. And this is just an excerpt from what we wrote for the purpose of this grant. And I think I need to kind of hurry, so I may have to speed through these slides, but they'll be online. This is an example of job requirements, and I will also upload a sample of our position description to give you a sense of the things that we asked for in this position. But we didn't ask for direct wiki experience. That would have been great, but realistically, most students probably don't have that. So during her interviews, Caroline made this statement, and so that basically got her hired. She was the candidate that most seemed to understand what the intention of Wikipedia is, especially in an educational context. And so when I wrote the grant, I made very, I kind of made like minimal goals because, at least for the first semester, because I wanted to I had never done this before, so I didn't know we could realistically achieve, but we actually did a lot more than what I thought we could do. And so she was able to create and improve articles, including uploading to the Wikimedia Commons, helping me support students and faculty. She organized and ran our art and feminism editathon by herself mainly, which included, developing her skills in social media, graphic design, teaching, and also connecting with our local Georgia Piedmont Wikimedian group and coordinating with them. So something that was really good for us about this initiative is that, we don't have, there's no director or dean saying we should have a Wikimedian residence. I'm basically saying, this is cool, we should try it. So it was a very low risk way of exploring what we can do with a Wikimedian at Emory. And so now we're trying to figure out what our next steps are. Do we want to do this again? There are some librarians interested in Wikidata, so we're doing some trainings together on that, and also starting to form a network among other Atlanta schools, because Atlanta has about 7 major universities, and so that's a good way to kind of get more involvement with local Wikimedians. And as a result of partially having this role and having the experience speaking, teaching, instructing, and working with people, she was able to get an historical interpreter job in her hometown of Nashville, which she wanted to stay in Nashville, so I'm very happy for her, and she's studying for the GRE. And yeah, essentially she said that it really beefed up her resume and her experience so that she was able to get a job that she really wanted. So this is my contact info, and I'll be around after if you want to ask me any questions, or can send me an email, and my username is Jennifer Juniper if you want to contact me on Wikipedia. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Now we have Dominic. He'll be talking about bringing people together to shape future education.
Does it work? Yeah. I can try your slides. Yeah. Hmm? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the cool slide.
Yes, it's the one I just changed. I just changed the title like last minute. Can you do that on the full screen?
I have no idea.
There.
This one?
Uh,
I don't think so.
read mode.
Yep, got it.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Dominic. I'm working for Wikimedia Deutschland, and there I'm coordinating the Free Education Alliance. The Free Education Alliance is a coalition of actors and organizations who are promoting open education. And that's basically the thing that I want to talk about today. We, as Wikimedia Deutschland, we love and like and support all the awesome work you're doing in the Wikipedia projects and the Wikimedia projects, all this educational outreach work you're doing, but we think that you need also to have a supporting environment and supporting political system, which we are trying to improve by talking to people, by talking to decision makers, to politicians. So I and we as a coalition believe that together we can create an environment that promotes quality education, and we are fighting for this. We have different ways of promoting it, of talking to the ministry, of talking to people who are like really the leaders in the political discourses of education. And so that the idea is that all the sharing knowledge, the principles that we have in our Wikimedia movement, we translate to the society, to the political and educational sector. The challenge that we have is that the education sector, at least in Germany, is still dominated by big companies like Microsoft. Germany is trying to digitize their education sector right now, but they are investing in smart boards and tablets and Wi-Fi in the schools, but they are not looking so much like what can we do to open up the education system. They are just trying to put a lot of technical stuff in the schools and investing in Microsoft, which have like closed systems, closed formats, And that way they make themselves dependent from these big companies. So we believe that only together, since we are not the big companies, we don't have the huge resources, the huge money, we only together can participate in the political discourse. We can try to create a system, an environment where also like smaller grassroots projects, open source projects, Wikipedia projects can be supported, can be promoted by, and can be implemented in the schools, in the educational sector. So in 2014, Wikimedia, along Creative Commons and Open Knowledge Foundation in Germany, built a coalition, the Free Education Alliance, which just had the idea of making open educational resources more visible to the society, to the politicians. This is a picture of the last meeting we had in Berlin in 2018. Here you can see like just a few of them. Right now we are 20 organizations and around 40 persons who are actively participating in calls, in writing position papers, in getting involved and being present at events. And this was a meeting where we talked about the strategy for 2019. You can see people from universities, you can see people who are working in the informal education sector, people who are getting involved in media, pedagogy, and so on. So we have a huge range of diverse actors who are all come together to promote one cause, which is educational equity, and well, education as to make education accessible and usable as possible. So, since still the open movement, the open education movement is not as strong as big companies, and we are like still like getting together. We saw the need to showcase all the ideas, to strengthen our ideas, to share our ideas and like just like work on them. So we built a forum and a platform last year, I think the beginning of this year, which are open user groups, which are not just for the alliance, but for the whole, for every actor, for everyone who is like interested in promoting open education. It's right now it's still a Slack platform, but we're trying to go to a open source platform where people can just come, enter, introduce themselves, and pitch ideas, talk about different topics like how we can change society to share more, to change the minds of the teachers to share and engage in the open education movement, or how can we talk to politicians more effectively. And yeah, we also have a working group about research and working group about software, like infrastructure. What do we need to have, like, where we're gonna talk about like open source software, open infrastructure, just to have a whole picture of what is open education and to promote that while talking to politicians. So my learning, or what we all know, is that getting the attentions for our projects, for our ideas, for opening up society, education sector, it's exhausting. It takes a lot of time. We need to keep the actors motivated, show them successes, build a community that encourages each other, and and also getting attention is, well, we have a community who is talking to each other, who is embracing the ideas, but still there's lots more to do. So we came up, at least in the last year, with an idea to build a new space, a forum open education, where we once a year rent out a room in Berlin, in the city, and invite people from the civil society, from the politics, and from the educational practice, where open like initiatives, projects can broadcast what they're doing, can broadcast their projects, and yeah, that's more or less the last slide, where politicians come and listen and see what the open education movement is about and learn, so that in the end we are getting more visible, we are getting stronger ties to the politics. Yeah, so I didn't have my notes, so I was like a little bit winging it.
There's a ramp here as well. So. Yep. Thanks.
It was on purpose, I guess.
Something in the slides for you?
What, you have a clicker?
Yes.
So, here, there we go. This one works? Okay. So hello, my name is Gabriel Tulin. I'm a school teacher in Geneva, Switzerland, and I've been working on Wikipedia with my students since 2006, and where the students, they edit. I have them add pages or do small edits on Wikipedia. These are usually 7th grade students, ages 11 to 12, and I do that as part of a introductory computer course I give. And I've been more and more frustrated in the recent years, especially this year, with how things go with the students. They all come to school with phones with them. Like 95% of them have their phones in their pocket. They're not, and I teach them how to read and write on Wikipedia on computers. And they all use their phones for web access. They're on it like 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and they use the phone for everything. And I survey the students every year at the beginning of the school year to find out how they use technology, how they use devices to access the internet, and so on. And it turns out that this year, for the first time, it was something like 60% of the students did not have a computer at home. There are no computers. And that also means that, like in my introductory computer course, I have to teach these kids how to use a keyboard, how to use a mouse, because the only time they've seen a computer is when they do it at school or like in a library, and most of them don't have a working computer at home. And of those who do have a computer at home, meaning the 40% there, at least half of them, it's a computer that's in a closet somewhere that hasn't been opened in a few years' time. And another 10%, it's one of the parents has a work computer at home, which they absolutely cannot touch or cannot use. So basically, it's because the parent works on it and doesn't want the kids to mess it up with games and virus and all that kind of stuff. So, and at schools, they're used to using their phones, but they, at least in Switzerland, and I know in other European countries, we're going on towards a harsher and harsher ban on phones in school. And some schools are even thinking about even forbidding the students to come with phones that are turned off. I mean, no phones at all. and definitely no use for the phones in school. And as a computer science teacher or an introductory course in computer science, and I'm trying to teach them how to use Wikipedia effectively, and I teach them using a computer and they do it on their phone, and it's not the same thing. Because for them, it's a totally different device. It's difficult to teach somebody how to use their smartphone with all you have to teach them with is a computer. It doesn't work the same way. And some teachers get around it by, well, I call it like bending the rules. I mean, a lot of teachers do use these smartphones. They just say that, oh yeah, we're doing a class project, we need to take digital pictures. So it's not a phone, it's a digital camera, or else we're doing a language lesson, we need to record some language. We're not using a phone, we're just using a recorder. But that's well, I don't like doing that, and I don't feel like twisting the word of the law that way. So what I decided to do, at the end of this year, I tried the phone emulator. Now, at least some browsers enable you to emulate different screen sizes, or emulate a smartphone or tablet on the browser. And it tries to react like a phone or a tablet would. That way people can test their web pages on different devices without having a table full of different smartphones. You just change the settings on the emulator and you can test the website which you're developing. So I'm trying to use that to teach the kids how to use a smartphone when accessing Wikipedia. It is like, for those who know a bit, like the Wine emulator for Linux. This is a program that emulates Microsoft Windows, and you can use a lot of Windows programs, but they don't quite work the same way. Some of them work okay, some of them don't, and some of them don't work at all. And so this phone emulator, well, it's similar. It emulates a phone. It's not perfect. It's not a smartphone. It's a computer screen. But I'm going to try it anyway. Because what I do with Wikipedia is basically reading and writing. Reading the articles, finding the articles, searching, finding related information, and when they write, adding text, adding links, adding categories, and basic things like that. I don't go much beyond that level of use of Wikipedia with the 7th grade students. And I've tested this emulation on the two of the browsers that are installed at school. That's Firefox and Google Chrome. And both of them have an emulator. Now imagine, I don't know how much time I have left. I planned on a 5-minute talk, but we have 10 minutes, right? Oh, wow. Okay, so like everything I do, the best thing you can do is try it out. So I won't go into lengthy films or anything about trying them out. This, I made a slide for Firefox. Basically, you can go through the menus on Firefox, and I showed you how you get to the proper place, or you just do Control-Shift-M, and that's a shortcut that takes you straight to the smartphone emulator. And then you change the settings. It's pretty obvious. And for Google Chrome, it's similar, but not quite the same. And the shortcut is not the same. It's Control, Shift, and I. But it also takes you to the emulator, and there's a little button in the corner which you click to turn the emulator on and off. So both of them work in a similar fashion. What I found, well, I just tried it rapidly at the end of this school year, and I'll be doing it more in depth this coming school year in September with the students, and I'll see how far I can get on to editing Wikipedia pages, with them. What I really want is for them to be able to continue using Wikipedia on their phones. We use it at the school computers, they use it maybe at the library if they have access to a computer, but when they get home they have their phones and they think it doesn't work the same way. And so we'll see, because I don't know if anybody's tried an emulator like that, but you can see even in the on Wikipedia pages and the history of the edits, when you edit using an emulator, it says that you edited using a phone. So the emulator works pretty good. And it simulates like the touch screen with the finger, you use a mouse. And the difficult part with some of the students I had in the month of May this year when I tried it is that they're still not quite used to using a mouse. And when you use a mouse, when you start using a mouse, some people may remember what it was like when you start using it, but it's aiming the mouse and keeping it steady while you click. So when you're on a smartphone emulator and you keep on clicking on the wrong space on the screen, it becomes a bit difficult. Well, if you don't click steady but you move while you click, it has unexpected results with the smartphone because they're using a mouse and not their fingers. So ideally that type of emulator would work even best if you could really use a touch screen when you do it. There. So thank you very much. Any questions, or is that at the end of the show? I guess that's the end of the show. So.
Oh, you have some no, it's, I don't know where. Krishna. Is it on slide deck? Is it you? No. Oh, I think that's connected.
Next. I think
Yes.
Benson is not here.
Where are you going? All right. Is it so valuable?
Hello. I'm Philip, and this is Miroslav, and we're talking about valuable resources for greater impact. We're coming from Serbia, from Wikimedia Serbia to be precise, and this is our context. So what we've sort of gathered through the years is that there were not enough resources for people who work as volunteers in our environment, primarily Wiki ambassadors and Wikipedians in residence. The first being more popular in education program, whereas Wikipedians in residence in GLAM. So we wanted to make something for them so that it could be useful for them, so that we would spend less time on, bringing them into the position. And since we constantly hire new Wikipedians in residence and we get new ambassadors, that was getting a bit tiring. But also we wanted to reflect on the community and help them get more resources that would be useful, especially for newbies, for people who are new to to Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects, so that they know how to edit better. We wanted to strengthen community, the community and the communication between and among themselves and us, and since I think this is present in many cases, like the Wikipedian community and the Wikimedia chapter affiliate user group community sort of diverging, even though they're sort of doing the same thing. So we wanted to sort of reconnect and try to maintain closer relationships, and we thought about how to do that. So the clicker's here, okay. Does this work?
I'll be the clicker.
Yeah, we can do that. So we wanted to create a solution. Basically to make resources that could be useful for everyone, for all of these participants in the community. So how did we do that? Well, there are many ways. We tried to do different things. Oh yes, maybe. Oh yeah, we unplugged that. So there are many ways on how to do that, and for students, we wanted to involve them in creating resources for other students. So we wanted to do this the Wiki way, Wiki ambassadors were also used to create content for next Wiki ambassadors. So we wanted to harness their experiences from, working so far, so that we can create a good resource for that. And also Wikipedians in Residence, we wanted to, pick their brains and try to gather some tips for this brochure that we created. And also we wanted to listen, and we keep listening to community needs through various channels so that we can see what is missing and what we need to add more and to develop in terms of resources. So, yeah, it works. So there are many challenges there. The first one is, okay, we created a resource. How do we actually update it? When do we do it? How do we make it useful, not just at the point that we make it, but continually? And also, how do we motivate them, the students, for instance, to actually create content? So we need to foster this two-way relationship where, they feel like they get something out of it, and we actually want to get something out of it. So we need to be very persistent there. We need to be constantly monitoring them and helping them, and it's a tiring process. And also, once we do create the resources, how do we make them read it or use them? So to make it usable, basically, or useful. There are different ways that we try to publish or publicize the resources. And also, we wanted to find out what is really needed. How do we approach the basic question of, what do they need? Because for us, many things are sort of given. We know how to do Wikipedians in Residence stuff, how to edit Wikipedia, but we need to provoke them to ask, to find out what they need. So we created the following resources, among others. I'm not mentioning the ones that are sort of older. These all happened in the past year. Because we previously developed education brochure and GLAM brochure, but they're more external resources for external partners. But these are for the community. So first of all, instruction for Wikipedians in Residence. As I mentioned, we have a large turnover of those. We constantly hire new short-term Wikipedians in Residence, and onboarding them takes time. So this brochure, this resource, I think would help there and will help there, so that they can familiarize themselves with the community if needed, the ecosystem, the work, etc. Similar is for Wiki ambassadors. They're always being renewed because students finish with their studies, and then we get new students who are Wiki ambassadors in their own universities. So we try to again, we got some information and some experiences from existing ambassadors, and we created this resource. Video tutorials about editing Wikipedia, they're quite useful, and I'm really proud of that. We did this in cooperation with one university, so the students created the video tutorials, and they're awesome. We're using also Discord, an application, online app that you can use to communicate in real time, so that's really good, and especially useful for communication with the community, online community. And then the manual for the dashboard. Everyone familiar with the dashboard? I think it's fairly well known here. And also the visual editor manual. The visual editor is something that we're trying to use more and more. And even though it's sort of intuitive, I guess some people do require some sort of instruction there. So yeah, we created that as well.
So I've been told we have 1 more minute. I don't have idea how I'm going to say all of this, but so what we have seen as our lessons is that this view that actually all the editors can function and communicate in a better and quicker way through Discord is like something that just was so much more let's say, usable than to talk on talk pages, then it is very essential during this production of tutorials to follow all the steps and to be really there to let's say, be focused on these processes of making this content. And also for our instructions for Wikimedian residents and Wiki ambassadors, it's important to actually discover what are these situations that they deal with, what are the problems that they have, and that should be mentioned in the instructions. Also, so when we created this, it actually allowed us to focus more on other problems, and we kind of had this already prepared set of answers that our volunteers can have. So what are next steps? The first one is, of course, to share everything with the local community, then to constantly update it, and then to create new resources, and of course to make it internationally usable. So this is something that we are currently doing. We translated most of them, but so far there's the last one that should be translated, and then we can share that to anyone who happened to be interested in them. And well, as you see, these resources can really be used for the community growth that we are really dedicated to, and then they are helping to improve the quality of the content. They are the tools that improve the accessibility, and that is something that usually everyone who attends these events is interested in, to see which are the newest tools that can be used. And also, we hope that these ideas will help your communities, in case you're interested, to improve your content and your work on Wiki projects. Thank you. So we don't have enough time to go through the links, but it's in the presentation, and you can take a look.
I'll go. Yep. Does it have internet? I want to access the internet.
So I'll go really quick, maybe 3 minutes. So I want to talk about the working groups of the Wikipedia and education user group. So how many of you have kind of interacted with the user group before, or know about the user group? Okay, very few. So Wikipedia and education user group, so we formed in 2018, and we have a board now. So we formed these working groups to include community members to kind of work in specific areas. So we have 4 working groups now, like we're kind of launching these 4 working groups. So one is resource development, capacity building, advocacy, and global outreach. I'll just walk you through the meta pages of these working groups.
Keyboard.
So these are the 4 working groups we have. So Greenhouse is kind of semi working group, which is Melissa is handling as part of the education team. So first one is mentorship. So you can basically sign up if you're interested in one of these working groups in your volunteer capacities. We'll be contacting you. So there is the page and there is a sign up section there. So mentorship working group is, so basically sometimes we get requests from new members that they want to start an education program in their community. So people who sign up here, will connect them to these people, and so that you can help the new education organizers to kind of kickstart their education programs in their community. And the second one is resource development. So if you have looked at the outreach space on, education space on Outreach Wiki, so there are a lot of resources which have been built by the previous collab that was there. So we basically built, for example, like training materials and also spaces like how to start an education program, how to speak about Wikimedian education, and different resources. So that is resource development, and then we have tech infrastructure. So tech infrastructure working group is going to be one of the active working groups, because at the beginning of this session, Melissa spoke about if you have any ideas, you can, for the tech needs, you can write over the table. I see nothing now. So yeah, so the tech infrastructure working group we have, so next month we are going to launch a survey to identify the global tech needs of the education community. Basically, we are going to ask what more do you need on the outreach dashboard, and also any other different tools that you would like. So if you're into tech development or technical documentation or survey evaluation and learning evaluation, you can join this group. And then we have global outreach. So global outreach is, it's kind of advocacy working group where you can go to other conferences or lead organizations and speak about Wikimedia in education. So we just kind of made these meta pages so that people can just look at, say, I think there are a lot of people in this global outreach. Garon is also there. So we have what they mean briefly, and what does it mean while you're working? Who is invited to join? What expertise do you bring into this? So yeah, okay. So we just started these. So we thought of having a 1-hour session at Wikimania, and then we don't have time. Finally, I got 3 minutes. So we go through the meta pages. It is on. So when you go to the education user group main page, there you have this page. So if you go to get involved here, you have the working groups, the links to the working groups here. So if you have expertise in any of these areas and if you're interested, so we're kind of thinking we'll host one meeting for each working group every month, and then see how we can help the community in those areas. So yeah, fine. So Elena will be talking about space.
It's okay, if we don't have time, it's okay.
In just 5 minutes, whoever wants to listen. Yeah. Just a quick walkthrough.
Can you help me get that thing?
Yeah, I'll open it up. You want the presentation or just the...
The presentation would be great, and I'll just go through. Thank you. All right, thank you all so much for staying with us. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go very, very quickly, but I do think that what I'm going to present might be really helpful to some of you, in particular the challenges that Christine and Dominic identified in their work might be able to be resolved by this platform that we're working on right now, and I really do hope that that's the case. So I'm going to be talking about Wikimedia Space just very, very quickly. Oh, if this will let me. We'll just go here. So I've heard these questions asked a number of times throughout different presentations in different forms. How can I learn about what's working in education for other communities? And how can I share what my education community is doing? Thank you. That's working for us. Or where can I publicize my events across the movement? A lot of you probably organize edit-a-thons, local meetups, things like that. How can I get the word out to people who aren't in my direct community, to invite them to join online, or if they're in town, to swing by? Where can I confidently direct newcomers for support if I'm really trying to host events to get people involved in editing? Obviously, you can't hold their hand all the time, but where can you send them confidently to know that they'll be received warmly and given the support they need to continue editing? And how can I consolidate my project's communication channels potentially into one? That is what Wikimedia Space is about. Wikimedia Space is a single platform for collaboration. It has blog and discuss sections. On the blog, you can publish any update, news related to any project that you're doing in the community. And you can publish it in any language as well.
The discussion board, you can ask any question pertaining to Wikimedia and get an answer, and you can ask in any language as well. It is a prototype right now, so it's being developed around the needs of movement organizers like yourself. Like I mentioned, it's multilingual. It's welcoming to anybody speaking any language, and you can post in any language. And perhaps most importantly, it's safe. It's governed by a code of conduct, and it has active moderation to ensure that the environment is welcoming and friendly to everybody. This is the main page. You can see we have the blog on one side and the discuss described on the other side. The blog main page is a feed of the most recent news submitted by community members. The forum, the discuss side of Wikimedia Space, is organized by categories. These categories are just kind of subboards. And you can go in and talk about whatever's relevant to you. So we have an Ask Here category where people can ask any question pertaining to Wikimedia. We have an events category where people can post their events that are going on around the world. And I will show that very, very quickly. And we also have an education category. Sailesh helped us set up an education category where people are going in, posting news about their education initiatives, getting feedback, asking questions across languages, across communities, sharing resources. That's the point of Space. Some favorite features, again, it is a prototype, so it's being more developed, but we have some features that people are really loving already. One, the calendar of Wikimedia events around the world. It's amazing to me that we have survived as a movement without having one central calendar. This can be the central calendar of events around the world. You go in, take a look at whatever's going on the day in question. There's also an interactive map of Wikimedia events around the world. You can zoom in on your area and see what's going on at any time. Or if you're visiting an area, you can take a look at what's going on while you'll be on vacation if you want to meet some new volunteers. Finally, closed groups allow for collaboration amongst trusted peers. I'm sure that some of you work on content that is potentially controversial or sensitive, and a lot of volunteers who work on content like that have gravitated towards closed Facebook groups or Telegram, WhatsApp groups, because they don't feel comfortable communicating on Wiki. They don't feel welcome. Well, Wikimedia Space allows for closed groups which function as private discussion boards. People can come in, nominate their own moderatorship, set up their own private discussion board to be having conversations just amongst themselves. The discuss and the blog side are fully integrated, meaning if you publish a news story on the blog, it will automatically publish to the discussion board, and people can add comments and like and link and do all of that with your blog post. Submitting your community story is very easy on the blog. There's a submit news button. Just go to the blog, submit your news. There is an editorial board that just consists of 2 of us now. But the editorial board is not there to, refine your work or any of that. We're just there to make sure it's clear. We ask you questions, and then we coordinate a publication time that works for you. Anybody can see the content published on the blog, so feel free to publish on this blog. If you want a piece that you can send to a potential partner or a potential donor, they will be able to see that on the blog as well. How to join Space? Very easy. Just visit the home page and click the join button. You can log in with your Wikimedia account through Fabricator. And that's all. Please grab a sticker, a Wikimedia Space sticker. They are biodegradable, in line with our theme here. And come find me if you have any questions. I would love to talk to you and get you set up with your own discussion board, closed group, whatever it is that will support your community. I'm happy to do that. Thank you so much for staying with me. Take care.
Thanks you for staying overtime, and thanks to all the speakers. So that is end of lightning talks for the education space. So the next session, we have a break until 11:30. So the next session is going to be on the program and events dashboard by Sam, who is sitting there, and Ran and me. Yep.